I'm probably the most outrageous freshman on the entire internet. Others bring suitcases to school. I bring a helicopter. Others get bullied by seniors during check-in. I get publicly claimed by a retired captain. Others chase after the campus belle with bubble tea and get rejected, but she actively adds me on WeChat and eats with me. Don't ask me what it's like, just know the system's quests are too absurd. I'm just a tool trying to keep a low profile. I stare at the virtual panel in front of me, my mind still blank. The night before the first day of freshman year, I was lying in bed scrolling my phone when a strange interface suddenly popped up, clearly displaying a line of text. Novice quest. Fly a helicopter to school for registration. Reward. System activation. I thought someone was messing with me, so I tapped it casually. The next second, a helicopter materialized out of thin air on my rooftop. I was completely dumbfounded. The next morning, I braced myself and climbed into the cockpit, following the system's instructions to fly the aircraft out. To be honest, it was my first time touching the controls in my life. My hands were shaking. Luckily, the system was reliable. The helicopter's flight assist was maxed out with full autopilot navigation. Sitting up there, it felt no different from taking a taxi. The September heat in Donghai was like a steamer, the sun blazing down mercilessly. I flew the helicopter across half the city before finally spotting Donghai University's sports field. Down below, it was packed with people. The welcome booths were lined up along the runway, red and white canopies one after another. I landed the helicopter right in the middle of the field. Before the rotor blades had even stopped spinning, the crowd below erupted. Holy crap, it really is a helicopter. Someone actually flew in for registration. I thought that post on the confession wall was a joke. Which department's big shot is this? I took a deep breath, pushed open the door, and jumped down. The sunlight made me squint, and the heat wave from the field, mixed with the smell of grass, hit me in the face. Everyone around was holding up their phones, filming me. I pretended not to notice, scanning the row of orientation signs until I found Chinese department. Song Qingwan was standing right next to that sign. To be honest, the moment I saw her, I froze for a second. She wore a white dress, her long black hair braided into a single plait by her ear, with slightly curled bangs framing her forehead. She held a parasol in one hand and a tissue to wipe her sweat in the other, looking like she'd stepped off a magazine cover. I walked straight up to her. "Hi, senior. I'm a freshman in the Chinese department. Is this where I register?" She clearly hadn't quite recovered from the shock of the helicopter. She blinked twice before snapping back. "Ah, yes, right here. What's your major?" "Chinese language and literature." Her eyes lit up. "Same as me. Let me take you to handle the procedures." I nodded. "Sorry for the trouble, senior." We hadn't taken 2 steps when a voice called me from behind. "Wait a minute." I turned around. A guy dressed like he was walking the red carpet strode over from beside a Ferrari, a Brioni jacket, Armani pants, and shoes polished to a mirror shine. His expression was sour. He gave me a thorough once-over, and the corner of his mouth twitched. "Bro, I got here first. Don't you know the rules?" Before I could say anything, Song Qingwan had already stepped in front of me. "Junior from the PE department, I already told you the orientation for your department is across the field." Her tone was polite, but the distance in her words was obvious to everyone. That guy's face immediately turned green. He stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed a sneer. "This helicopter, isn't it rented with all your savings?" The people around heard that, and all turned their gazes to me. I was indeed dressed plainly that day, my t-shirt washed to a faded white. Standing next to him in his brand-name clothes, the gap was more than a little. Many people started whispering. I smiled and said, "If you think so, then it is." The crowd immediately buzzed. "What? So it really is rented?" I knew it. How could someone dressed so simply own a helicopter? Words like that floated over intermittently. The guy was smug, his chin almost pointing to the sky. He turned to Song Qingwan and said, "So, don't you think you should thank me for helping you see through a liar?" Song Qingwan frowned and was about to speak when a middle-aged man in a suit jogged through the crowd, heading straight for me, sweat all over his forehead. "Mr. Lin, Mr. Lin, I finally found you." Everyone was stunned. I was a bit confused too. "You are?" "I'm Zhou Hai, the management specialist for your private helipad in Nanyu, Eastern Sea City." He caught his breath and bowed respectfully. "I'm here to fly your helicopter back to the helipad. Sorry for being late due to traffic." As soon as he said that, the surrounding immediately fell silent. The smile on that guy's face froze solid. Zhou Hai continued. I used to be a captain for an airline, flying for nearly 20 years. You can trust me with your aircraft. Someone immediately pulled out their phone and searched. He really is a retired captain. It's online, they whispered. The crowd's attitude instantly shifted. Everyone looked at me differently now. Those who had been jeering just moments ago all shut their mouths. I nodded to Zhou Hai. Sorry for the trouble. After handing him the keys, I turned to look at the rich second-generation kid. His face was pale and flushed, his lips twitching. Finally, he lowered his head and said, I misjudged you just now. Sorry. I waved my hand. It's nothing. I don't mind. His face darkened even more before he turned and walked away. I figured he'd rather I argued with him than let it slide so lightly. But I really didn't care much about him. Song Qingwan had been silent all along, and only now did she let out a soft laugh. Come on, let's get your procedures done. I had heard about the whole registration process for freshmen long before, and by the time we finished a round, my legs were aching. Song Qingwan led me through the entire process, running from one window to another under the scorching sun. She had such a good temper. At a few places with long queues, anyone else would have grown impatient, but she just stood quietly beside me, waiting. Occasionally, she'd exchange a few words with me. By the time all the paperwork was done, it was well past lunchtime, and I was starving. Senior, after all this trouble, let me treat you to a meal. She tilted her head to glance at me, a smile curling at the corners of her lips. Sure, she agreed readily. That caught me a bit off guard. I only found out later that she hardly ever went out alone with guys. Her admirers could line up from the playground to the school gate, yet not a single one had succeeded. We went to a Chinese restaurant near the school called Jade Pavilion. The atmosphere was very comfortable, with antique-style decor and a faint scent of sandalwood in the air. I poured her a cup of tea, and she took it with a word of thanks. After the dishes arrived, we ate and chatted. The atmosphere was quite natural, and she told me some things about school. Which cafeteria had good food, which building was easy to get lost in. I made a mental note of it all. Halfway through the meal, suddenly, a mechanical prompt sounded in my mind. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. Report by helicopter. Reward. 1 villa in the Cloudwater Villa at Waterfront Elegance. My chopsticks paused. Cloudwater Villa at Waterfront Elegance, who in all of EC City didn't know about it? It was the city's most exclusive private estate area, nestled against the mountains and beside the water. The property fees were exorbitantly high, and Cloudwater Villa was the best located one among them, reportedly never sold to outsiders. The system had just given it to me directly. I kept a calm expression and continued chatting with Song Qingwan. She had drunk a few glasses of fruit wine, probably thinking it was just a soft drink, so she didn't take it seriously. When we got up to leave, as soon as she stood up, she swayed. I quickly reached out to steady her. Senior, are you okay? Her face was as red as an apple. Even the tips of her ears blushed pink. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. I'm fine, just a little dizzy. I practically half supported, half carried her back to the entrance of the girls' dormitory. The number of people turning to look at us was ridiculously high. Many recognized Song Qingwan, their eyes sweeping over me. She must have noticed, keeping her head down as we walked, her ears red the whole way. When we reached the entrance, there was a couple nearby, kissing as if no one else existed. We both pretended not to see them. Song Qingwan hurriedly thanked me and dashed into the dormitory like she was escaping. I watched her go, then turned and walked away. That evening, I headed to the Cloudwater Pavilion. Honestly, standing in front of that gate, I couldn't help but let out a sigh. A 3-story, standalone estate. Nearly 700 square meters, the landscape lights in the courtyard outlined the entire structure like a painting. I pushed the door open and went inside. The interior was even more luxurious than I had imagined. Just the floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room alone offered a view that covered half of the riverside elegance. I was touring the second floor when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw a woman standing there. Words like stunning hardly did her justice. She wore a black off-shoulder dress, with chestnut brown, loose waves casually draped over her shoulders. Her peach blossom eyes seemed to hook you when she looked at you. Her figure was ridiculously good, the kind that made you know it was rude to stare, yet your gaze would still wander. She also seemed taken aback when she saw me. She probably hadn't expected someone living in Cloudwater residence to look so young, but she recovered quickly, smiling and extending a hand. Hello, I'm Zhongli. I live across from you. I saw you moving in and came over to say hi. I shook her hand. Lin Chun. Her hand was very soft, her fingertips slightly cool. Zhongli smiled. She handed me a gift box containing 2 bottles of red wine. Just the packaging alone told me they weren't cheap. A housewarming gift. Just a small token, don't refuse. I stepped aside. Come in and have a seat. She walked in gracefully. She walked around the living room in her high heels, then sat down on the sofa, crossing one leg over the other. She surveyed the space and remarked that the layout of Yunshuijian was indeed excellent. I was interested in it back then too, but the property management told me it wasn't for sale. Her eyes curved as she looked at me. Unexpectedly, little Lin got it. The term little Lin made my eyelids twitch. She then said she was 26 and told me to call her sister Lee, her tone carrying a hint of teasing a child. I could tell that this older sister was treating me like a kid and having fun with me. We hadn't chatted long before she got a phone call. Something urgent came up at her company, so she stood up and took her leave. I saw her to the door and watched her figure in high heels disappear into the night before closing the door. In the morning, Lin Chun went straight to the teaching building. Song Ching-wan had specifically reminded him yesterday. There was a class meeting today, so after going upstairs, following the electronic map Song Ching-wan had sent him, Lin Chun quickly found his classroom. It had to be said, the Chinese department really had a lot of female students. He hadn't seen many male students along the way. After reaching the classroom, Lin Chun realized he was late. Most of the seats in the classroom were already taken. Lin Chun casually found a seat and sat down. As soon as he sat down, Lin Chun caught a faint scent of jasmine. It was subtle, mingling with the fragrance of a girl's body. It smelled nice. The moment Lin Chun sat down, the girl beside him stiffened momentarily. She subtly shifted her body away. Lin Chun noticed her small movement. He greeted her, "Hello, classmate. My name is Lin Chun. What's yours?" She glanced at Lin Chun, then quickly averted her gaze. Suemo was quite pretty, this girl, with a baby face and delicate side profile. Her long lashes beneath the bangs fluttered gently. Lin Chun raised an eyebrow slightly. "Mo," as in Jasmine, she nodded. She didn't speak, but the tips of her ears turned pink. Lin Chun was quite surprised. He didn't expect that nowadays. There were still girls this shy. It was rather rare. After all, with many girls these days, if you told them a dirty joke, they could come back with one even dirtier. As if unable to resist her curiosity, Suemo sneaked a glance at Lin Chun. "How did you guess?" Lin Chun said casually, "The jasmine scent on you." Suemo was momentarily stunned. Then Lin Chun suddenly smiled. He looked at her student ID card on the desk. "Your student ID is right there. It has your name on it." Suemo quickly tucked the card away. Just as she was about to say something, just then, the acting class advisor arrived. Donghai University had a tradition. Each freshman class was assigned an acting class advisor. For a period of 1 month, this acting class advisor will be a senior student from the same department. The acting class advisor for Lin Chen's class was a scholarly senior with black-rimmed glasses. After the acting class advisor gave a speech on stage, the next part was the election of class officers. Class officers were chosen by students freely speaking on stage, elected by vote. Now it was the turn for the league branch secretary election. A girl was currently running on stage. A bit boring. Lin Chun glanced around. He noticed most of the class were looking down at their phones. Suemo kept glancing at Lin Chen's profile, wanted to find an opportunity to strike up a conversation, but not knowing what to say. This scene was seen by Zhou Kai, sitting in the back row. His expression gradually darkened. Although Donghai University had many beautiful girls, Suemo was still one of the best. She was also the class beauty. When he first saw Suemo, he planned to win Suemo over soon. But unexpectedly, when he went up to run for class monitor, someone actually wanted to beat him to it. He looked Lin Chun up and down, and seeing that the other was dressed ordinarily, he felt relieved. "Are you Lin Chun?" Zhou Kai asked. Lin Chun turned his head slightly, and seeing the unfriendly look on the other's face, he just nodded lightly. "Where are you from?" The tone was very hostile. Anyone who didn't know would think he was interrogating a criminal. Lin Chun glanced at him, puzzled, and turned to leave, but Zhou Kai relentlessly blocked his way. "Wait, I still have something to ask you." The corner of Lin Chen's mouth twitched slightly. He didn't say anything, just looked at him. Zhou Kai then continued asking, "You didn't come back last night." Lin Chen nodded. "Why didn't you come back?" Lin Chen smiled. "Does that concern you?" Hearing this, Zhou Kai was instantly displeased. "How is it not related to me? I'm the dorm leader. You're not staying here tonight. If something happens, I'll be held responsible. Even if you want to stay outside, you need to apply to the advisor and get approval first. Otherwise, you're putting me in a difficult position." Zhou Kai kept nagging, and Lin Chen was starting to get impatient. Song Qingwan had also mentioned to him that many people live off campus. Applying to the advisor is just a formality. And for those who don't apply, the advisor simply turns a blind eye. This Zhou Kai was clearly making things difficult for him. Lin Chen wondered when he had ever offended this guy. Sensing the tension between the two boys beside Zhou Kai spoke up. It's fine. Just go apply later. I heard it's easy to get approved." Yeah, approvals are usually quick. But stubborn Zhou Kai didn't pick up on his friend's way of giving him an out. He continued, "I told you, if something happens to you out there, I can't take that responsibility." At this, Suemo also turned to look at him. A look of delight spread across Zhou Kai's face. "Suemo, don't you think so? Sumo fronit slightly. What does this have to do with her?" "I don't know." After saying this, Suemo turned back around, pretending to write her own things. But her attention was on Lin Chen. Just then, there was a commotion at the door. Lin Chen instinctively looked up. The newcomer was none other than Song Qingwan. Behind her were several senior students. Zhou Kai's eyes lit up. He was utterly captivated. His eyes couldn't tear themselves away from Song Qingwan. The classroom immediately erupted into excitement. "So this is Song Qingwan, the school beauty of Donghai University? She looks even better in person than in photos and videos." No wonder people said Song Qingwan is not photogenic. Now that I see her, it's indeed true. The photo looks good, but the real person looks even better. Senior Song was carefully crafted by Nuwa herself, or were just mud splatters casually tossed aside. Ouch, that stung. Xiao Goi shined. He was self-aware enough. A goddess like Song Qingwan never lacked suitors. He was nothing in comparison, so he had to settle for second best, and shifted his target to Su Mo. Now it was time for the club recruitment session. As the president of the Sinology Club, Song Qingwan spoke eloquently on stage. The Sinology Club aims to promote the essence of traditional Chinese culture, traditional moral values, and profound philosophical thoughts, while enriching campus life. It provides every student at Donghai University with a platform to understand, exchange, and pass on the heritage of Sinology. As for what she actually said, few in the classroom were paying attention. Almost everyone's focus was on her. After all, beauty is always a pleasure to behold. After Song Qingwan finished promoting the Sinology Club on stage, several club members quickly went down to note down the names of freshmen interested in joining the Sinology Club. Meanwhile, Song Qingwan held a form in her hand. As she walked down, Zhou Kai jolted upright. He immediately straightened up in his seat. Watching Song Qingwan smile at him, and even walk his way, Zhou Kai's love-struck heart pounded wildly with excitement. What if Senior Song had taken a liking to him? But between Song Qingwan and Su Mo, he would definitely choose Song Qingwan, just as he was lost in his fantasies. Song Qingwan stopped in front of Lin Chen. "Junior, would you be interested in joining our Sinology Club?" At that moment, many eyes turned toward Lin Chen. Meanwhile, Zhou Kai's face froze completely. Lin Chen looked up at Song Qingwan, who was smiling gently at him. "So many people are eager to join. I doubt you're missing just one more, right?" Lin Chen said with a smile. Actually, he didn't want to join any clubs. Because they involve too much work, he'd rather spend his 4 years of college carefree. Song Qingwan covered her mouth with a smile. If he could join, that would be even better. Lin Chen raised an eyebrow slightly. "Are there any benefits to joining the Sinology Society?" Song Qingwan sat down in the empty seat in front of him. Said, "It's like this. Joining the Sinology Society can earn you club credits. This is very important for the end of term comprehensive evaluation. We also organize some events in the Sinology Society. If you win, you'll receive a school-level certificate. Certificates can also add points. It also helps a bit when looking for a job after graduation." That does make some sense. Lin Chen nodded. Actually, he wasn't too interested in credits or anything. But since Song Qingwan spoke up, joining a club wouldn't be a big deal. With that, he picked up Song Qingwan's pen and filled in his information on the form. The others were once again envious and jealous. They all had the same 9 years of compulsory education. Why could he be so outstanding? Enough to have senior Song Ching-wan personally come recruit him into the club. Zhou Kai's face alternated between pale and green. He had clearly come to see Lin Shun as his greatest rival. Thinking this, he took the initiative to strike up a conversation with Song Ching-wan. Senior Song, I'd like to join the Chinese Culture Club too. But Song Ching-wan only glanced at him, then turned to look at her own club members. Xiaoqing, bring a form for this junior. Tossing out those words, Song Ching-wan continued talking to Lin Shun. A plump senior sister, weighing nearly 200 jin, bounced over. She handed a form to Zhou Kai. Zhou Kai was fuming inside, but anger aside, he still picked up a pen and scribbled his name down in a flurry. I'm going to the restroom. After saying that, he got up to leave. He needed to get some fresh air. If he stayed here any longer, he was afraid he'd die of anger. The two guys beside him quickly made way. Let him out. After a few words were exchanged, Song Ching-wan then left with the club members. After all, they still had to recruit for the next class. Zhou Kai, who had smoked several cigarettes in the restroom, returned to his seat. Zhang, he was browsing the campus network. Suddenly, he let out a holy shit. Zhou Kai frowned and asked in displeasure. Someone at our school came to register by helicopter, and they're from our school of literature. Really wonder who that big shot is. As freshmen, they were still out of the loop. Naturally, they didn't know that the person who came by helicopter was Lin Shun, sitting right in front of them. Xiao Kai shined. He muttered, I've heard about that. A helicopter costs at least a few million. Fuel isn't cheap either. Plus buying flight paths, this is a lifestyle only the rich can afford. I heard this big shot even has a private helipad in Donghai City. Even the helipad manager is a retired pilot. Such a big shot is someone we can only look up to. Lin Shun, with sharp ears, overheard this conversation. He smiled helplessly. If Zhou Kai ever found out that he was the one flying the helicopter, the big shot, he wondered what his expression would be. Just thinking about it was amusing. Soon, the second wave of club members arrived at the door. Shin Mengqi quickly took out her compact mirror at the entrance to check her makeup. She pulled out her lipstick to touch up her meticulously done gradient lip makeup. After making sure she was in her best state, she finally closed the compact mirror with satisfaction. The girl beside her chuckled and said, Mengqi, you weren't this attentive for the other classes just now. Could it be that there's a freshman in this class you've taken a liking to? Shin Mengqi's lips curled up slightly. She gave her a smug look. What do you know? Opportunities always favor those who are prepared. As she spoke, she squared her impressive assets, lifting her chin ever so slightly, looking every bit the queenly femme fatale. Her gaze swept over each of the new students, searching for a particular figure. The moment she saw Lin Shun, her eyes lit up. The junior who flew a helicopter. Today she had deliberately worn a tight, white shirt, perfectly showcasing her well-proportioned figure, paired with an asymmetrical pencil skirt on the bottom, and high stilettos on her feet. Unlike Song Ching-wan's slender build, she was of a curvaceous type, the kind of figure that most guys would consider top tier. At the first glance of her, Lin Shun had only one thought. Those buttons must be working hard. Then Shin Mengqi walked over to Lin Shun. Hello there, Junior Lin Shun. Do you still remember me? Shin Mengqi said with a faint smile. This scene made the other guys on site extremely envious. First, school beauty Song, and now the sexy senior sister. They couldn't understand apart from not being as handsome as Lin Shun. What else were they lacking compared to this guy? Lin Shun slightly frowned. He only felt that this sexy senior looked familiar, but couldn't remember where he had seen her before. A stiff expression flickered across Shin Mengqi's face, but it returned to normal in an instant. I'm Shin Mengqi, Chingwan's roommate. On orientation day, I was right next to Chingwan. She explained patiently. Oh, still couldn't remember. At that time, his attention seemed to be all on Song Ching-wan. He had no recollection of anyone named Shin Mengqi being by her side. Hello, senior. Even though he didn't remember who she was. Out of politeness, Lin Shun still addressed her as senior. Shin Mengqi's face lit up. Remember now? Lin Shun nodded awkwardly. Then, Shin Mengqi slid a form in front of Lin Shun, placing both hands on his desk, and casually threw in a little extra charm. Junior, want to join our literature club? As she spoke, she winked at Lin Shun. Lin Shun quickly moved back a bit. Couldn't help it feeling a bit dizzy. He was afraid of malnutrition. Senior, I've already joined one club. If I join another, I'm worried I won't have time. Hearing Lin Chen's refusal, Shen Mingqi wasn't upset. She casually sat down in front of him, the very spot Song Qingwan had just occupied. What club did you join? Could it be better than our literature club? Our literature club is the biggest in the College of Arts, and there are plenty of beautiful girls too. As she spoke, she rested her chin on her hand, looking cute and innocent. Traditional Chinese culture club. Hearing those three words, Shen Mingqi's expression shifted slightly. She cursed Song Qingwan in her heart as a white lotus and a sly fox, outwardly claiming she wouldn't date in 4 years of college, yet secretly poaching her prey. Thinking this, Shen Mingqi leaned in and whispered in a voice only the two of them could hear. You're afraid of trouble, aren't you? How about this? You just put your name down in our club. You don't have to do any work for the literature club. How about it? Lin Chun said with a smile. Senior, are you using your authority to pull strings for me? Shen Mingqi backed off. Resting her chin on her hands, she said, if you want to see it that way. Actually, that works too. Just then, the system, which had been absent for several days, appeared. Beep. Congratulations, host. A story mission has been triggered. Join Shen Mingqi's literature club. Reward, 5 million. This time it's directly in cash. However, this 5 million came way too easily. Compared to reporting in by helicopter, it's much simpler just joining a club, and you can get 5 million. Why not do it? Besides, Shen Mingqi had said he would just be a nominal member, but being able to complete the mission and get the reward, he'd be willing no matter how busy he gets. Just as Lin Shan was lost in thought, Shen Mingqi asked, Junior, have you made up your mind? Lin Shan snapped back to reality, smiled slightly. I've decided. I'll join. Seeing this, Shen Mingqi's face lit up. She immediately handed the pen to Lin Chun. Almost the instant Lin Chun finished filling out the form, the system's mechanical voice appeared in his mind again. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. You have received 5 million yuan. Note, 5 million has been deposited into the host card. Junior, what's wrong? Shen Mingqi asked. Lin Chen chuckled. Nothing. Senior, you're really my lucky star. Shen Mingqi was slightly stunned. She realized she was being flirted with by Lin Chun. After coming to her senses, Shen Mingqi's face flushed. She said coquettishly, I didn't notice. You really know how to flirt with girls. Although she didn't know how she had become Lin Chen's lucky star. Lin Chen smiled and said nothing. At this moment, Shen Mingqi's club's promotional event also ended. Before leaving, she also added Lin Chen on WeChat. Immediately after, a few more club promotions came. Lin Chen couldn't listen anymore. He just wanted to fully experience his Rolls-Royce fandom. He finally made it through to the end of class. Everyone rushed out. Lin Chen didn't want to deal with the crowd, so he waited until the flow of people thinned before going downstairs. As soon as he reached the building entrance, he saw a crowd surrounding a car. And that surrounded car was his own Rolls-Royce Phantom. Dumb or surprise. This is a Rolls-Royce Phantom, right? My dream. Car is so damn cool. If I could just drive this luxury car, I'd even give up 3 years of my life for it. Everyone, stay a bit farther away. If you accidentally scratch it, hundreds of thousands could go down the drain. Zokai also stood by the side, staring in awe at the Rolls-Royce Phantom before him. This is a real luxury car. His roommate Zhang, he asked. Bro Kai, this car looks really expensive. How much does it cost? Zokai glanced at him before saying, this car costs over 6 million yuan on the road. And that's just the base price. If you add optional extras, you'd have to add a few more million. For the top-tier configuration, the added costs are even more. Zhang, he gasped. That's terrifying. I really learned something new today. Just then, Zokai noticed Lin Chen standing nearby with arms crossed. He chuckled. What? Do you like this car too? Lin Chen glanced at him. Without saying a word, Zokai snorted. He stepped forward. Liking it is useless. Cars like this can never intersect with lives like ours. But even though I can't afford a Rolls-Royce, I do have a BMW 5 Series. It's not as good as a Rolls-Royce, but it's still pretty decent. Lin Chen slightly frowned. He looked at him as if he were an idiot. I wonder where he got the nerve to show off in front of me. Zokai felt a bit unnerved by his gaze, and suddenly a surge of anger rose in him. What kind of look is that? Are you looking down on me? Zokai forced the rest of his words back down, because Lin Chun had already taken out his car keys. walked toward that Rolls Royce, opened the door, and sat inside. Zhou Kai's mouth dropped open, in an O shape, as if he'd seen a ghost. What had he just seen? Lin Chun had gotten into that Rolls Royce Phantom. In other words, this luxury car was freaking Lin Chen's. Whoa, so this luxury car belongs to that guy. Huh, why does he look familiar? Isn't this that helicopter big shot? He's the freshman who showed up in a helicopter. That explains it. The guy even owns a helicopter, let alone a supercar. Woo, I wonder if that young man has a girlfriend. If not, would he mind having one? If he does, would he mind having one more? I'm super well behaved, I won't fight or snatch. By the time Zhou Kai came to his senses, Lin Chen had already driven off in the Rolls-Royce Phantom. Listening to the sounds around him, Zhou Kai felt as if all the strength had been drained from his body. His face was as ugly as if he had just swallowed a fly alive. He had also caught an important piece of information just now. Lin Chen was the freshman who had reported in by helicopter. Now he finally understood why both senior girls were fawning over Lin Chen. And he understood exactly where he fell short compared to Lin Chen. The guy had money power. Zhou Kai's legs went weak, and he nearly fell to the ground. In the end, he fled in panic. Sitting in the top of the line Rolls Royce, Lin Chen's heart was filled with delight. Naturally aspirated 60-degree V12 engine, matched with a 6-speed automatic transmission. It accelerates from 0 to 100 km/h in just 5.9 seconds, with a top speed of 240 km/h. One word, exhilarating. 2 words, absolutely exhilarating. Lin Chen sped freely along the wide road, the cars around him keeping their distance. Actually, that was understandable. With a luxury car of this level, if an ordinary person accidentally scratched it, they might as well prepare to sell their car and house. While waiting for a red light, Lin Chen rolled down his window. Immediately, a flirtatious whistle came from beside him. He instinctively turned to look. It was a woman with a typical influencer face. Big eyes, a sharp chin. Lin Chen suddenly thought of the snake spirit from the Calabash Brothers. At least in his eyes, she had no aesthetic appeal whatsoever. Compared to the pure senior girls at school, she was nowhere close, let alone Jiang Li, the domineering CEO. She winked at Lin Chen. Handsome guy, want to be friends? Lin Chen averted his gaze, silently rolled up the car window. When the light turned green, Lin Chen stepped on the accelerator. The roar of the Rolls-Royce V12 engine exploded instantly, and the Rolls-Royce Phantom vanished directly into the stunned sight of the internet celebrity-looking beauty. By the time he returned to waterfront elegance, it was already 10 in the evening. As soon as he entered, a WeChat notification sounded. It was a friend request. The note said Zhou Kai. Lin Chen initially wanted to ignore it, but after thinking it over, he agreed to the request. No sooner had he accepted than a series of messages came through. Zhou Kai, Lin Chen, I'm sorry. Today I was blind. Xiao Kai, we re-classmates. Can you forgive me this once? Xiao Kai, I promise. I won't ever do that again. Lin Chen frowned and directly set his messages to do not disturb. Just as he was about to go wash up, Shun Mingqi sent another message. Shun Mingqi, Junior, are you free tomorrow? I'll treat you to a meal. Shun Mingqi, cute. JPG, Shun Mingqi, acting cute JPG. Lin Chen thought it over and still declined. Shun Mingqi, that's such a shame. I happen to have 2 movie tickets. After dinner, we could even go watch a movie. Then, she sent a picture. On it were 2 tickets for a currently popular movie. And below the movie tickets were a pair of legs in fishnet stockings. Lin Chen, those movie tickets sure are white. Reading Lin Chen's message on her phone, Shun Mingqi smiled to herself. This was her surefire trick to captivate men. Almost without hesitation, she quickly typed a line in the chat box. Shun Mingqi, so, Junior, are you coming to watch the movie with me? Lin Chen at that moment. I didn't know what to say. Lin Chen's silence made Shun Mingqi a bit awkward. She continued, I just wanted someone to watch a movie with me. After all, watching a movie alone is pretty pathetic. Lin Chen, maybe we shouldn't. I'm afraid I might get malnourished. Shun Mingqi suddenly looked a bit disappointed. All right then, pour me. JPG of Shun Mingqi, holding her phone. Resting her cheek on one hand, she felt a familiar sense of worry. She didn't know why, but she always felt Lin Chen's attitude toward her was distant and uncertain. The more he acted that way, the more intrigued she became. No way she had to win Lin Chen over. Not even God could change that. Shen Mengqi silently made up her mind. The next day, there was a military training mobilization meeting. Lin Chen woke up late and drove his Rolls-Royce Phantom straight out. He only barely made it on time to the big conference room. That was when he realized it was almost completely full. At that moment, Shen Mengqi in the crowd suddenly stood up. She waved at Lin Chen. Lin Chen, here, I saved a seat for you. Lin Chen glanced around. He saw that the only empty seat was the one beside Shen Mengqi. So he had no choice but to walk over and sit down. Thanks. Shen Mengqi smiled sweetly. Don't mention it. Today, Shen Mengqi was wearing a white fitted knit top and hot pants on the bottom, perfectly showcasing her figure. Catching the attention of many male classmates who turned to look, Lin Chen couldn't help but say, "You really have a lot of charm, senior. Many guys are focused on you." Shen Mengqi acted coy. Not really. I don't think your attention is on me either. Lin Chen didn't directly answer her question. Instead, he asked, "Senior, aren't they too tight?" Shen Mengqi was momentarily stunned. She immediately understood what Lin Chen meant and instantly wore a troubled expression. Oh dear, it's people with our body type who have troubles. Wearing loose clothes makes me look fat. Wearing tight ones. She didn't finish her sentence. Instead, she gave Lin Chen a, "You know what I mean, look." Then she sighed, "And I don't want to look fat, so I have no choice but to dress like this." All right, Lin Chen said those two words, then turned his gaze to the instructor on the podium. Watching his profile, a triumphant smile flickered in Shen Mengqi's eyes. Seeing that Lin Chen didn't intend to continue talking, Shen Mengqi kept looking for things to chat about. Actually, this mobilization meeting is pointless. Even if you hadn't come, it wouldn't have mattered. It's just for picking up the military training uniforms. I can get them for you. Lin Chen quickly said, "Since I'm already here, I won't trouble you, senior." This senior's enthusiasm, Lin Chen really wasn't used to. All told, they had only met 3 times. She was inviting him to dinner and a movie, and even saving him a seat. All right, Shen Mengqi knew when to stop. If she kept going, she might annoy Lin Chen. So she obediently shut her mouth and listened attentively to the instructor's speech. Meanwhile, Zhou Kai, sitting not far away, from the moment Lin Chen entered the door, had his attention fixed on Lin Chen. He had 2 heavy dark circles under his eyes, looking extremely haggard. Yesterday, he sent an apology message to Lin Chen, but Lin Chen didn't reply. It kept him up all night, his heart in turmoil. His family was only moderately well off, having bought that BMW 5 Series on loan. Offending a hidden big shot like Lin Chen, if not handled properly, would mean social death at Donghai University, with almost no chance to recover. Zhou Kai grew more and more terrified as he thought about it, a layer of sticky cold sweat forming on his back. His college life had only just begun. He couldn't afford to suffer social death. Zhang He beside him asked, "Kai, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so terrible? Are you sick?" Zhou Kai didn't reply. Instead, he glanced at Lin Chen. It happened to be break time right then. After thinking it over, Zhou Kai stood up and walked straight to Lin Chen. When he reached Lin Chen, Zhou Kai bowed deeply at a 90-degree angle. "Lin Chen, I'm sorry for my rashness and rudeness yesterday. I apologize to you." The sudden bow startled Lin Chen. His mind went completely blank. Because of Zhou Kai's action, all the students in the room turned to look, perhaps thinking Lin Chen hadn't heard clearly. Zhou Kai repeated himself, adding another standard 90-degree bow. The classmates were confused. What was going on? Why did the squad leader, Zhou Kai, apologize to him? No idea. Can anyone tell us what just happened? Lin Chen came back to his senses. You're overthinking it. I didn't take it to heart. Upon hearing this, Zhou Kai's heart was frantic. You didn't take it to heart? Then why didn't you reply to my message? But that's what he thought in his mind. He didn't dare to show it. After thanking him, Zhou Kai returned to his seat. He breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Chen looked perplexed. Turning his head, he saw Shen Mengqi's probing expression. He helplessly spread his hands. He really hadn't taken it to heart, nor did he expect Zhou Kai to apologize to him publicly. Soon, the military training mobilization meeting ended. After collecting their military training uniforms, the classmates gradually left the large classroom. Shen Mengqi also left early due to something. Lin Chen held his military training uniform, preparing to leave at the bottom of the building. Song Qingwan looked at the Rolls-Royce Phantom. A trace of doubt flickered in her beautiful eyes. This was her favorite car. No doubt about it. Huh. There's actually someone at school driving a Rolls-Royce Phantom? Why haven't I noticed this before? Could it be a new student? Just as she was wondering, Lin Chun walked out. She was about to go greet him, but then she saw Lin Chun get into the Rolls-Royce Phantom. He drove off stylishly. Song Ching-wan was so shocked that the documents in her hands fell to the ground. That Rolls-Royce Phantom belonged to Lin Chun. Lin Chun was unaware of this little incident. He went straight back to his waterside residence. Just as he returned to his private estate, he received a message from Song Ching-wan. Song Ching-wan, Jr., you're starting military training tomorrow. Here are some friendly tips. Prepare at least a pair of soft, thick insoles. Also, sunscreen is absolutely indispensable. Song Ching-wan, otherwise, you can only pray that the instructor lets you get an even tan. Seeing the last line, Lin Chin couldn't help but laugh out loud. Get an even tan? As a straight guy, Lin Chin naturally didn't know the power of sunscreen. But it was quite late now, so he'd have to buy it tomorrow. The next day, since it was the first day of military training, everyone got up very early. The entire campus was almost filled with people in camouflage. Lin Chin and the other's instructor had bad luck, drawing a playground with no shade as their training ground. In September, though it was early autumn, it was still terribly hot, and the playground where Lin Chan was felt like a huge steamer. The students were like small buns in the steamer, steaming hot. After the first day, Lin Chan looked at his arm with a clear line between tanned and pale skin. He was utterly speechless, and the military training period was 2 weeks. He now understood what Song Ching-wan meant when she said that if he didn't use sunscreen, he could only hope the instructor would make their tan even. Lin Chan sighed, pulled out his phone, found Song Ching-wan's profile picture, and tapped on it. Senior, which brand of sunscreen works best? Song Ching-wan couldn't help but smile when she received a message. Song Ching-wan, I bought quite a few small gold bottles of sunscreen for the last event. I still have several unopened bottles here. I probably won't finish them all. I'll bring you one tomorrow. Lin Chun, I'd be too embarrassed to accept that. Song Ching-wan, what's there to be embarrassed about? It's just a bottle of sunscreen. Lin Chun, all right then. After military training, I'll treat you to a meal, senior. After chatting for a bit, Lin Chun put down his phone and went to shower. The next day, everyone lined up. The instructor looked serious. Yesterday, our squad leader saw a post on your campus network. A freshman complained that our military training wasn't strict enough and that he didn't get properly trained. So we've decided to increase the difficulty. At these words, the crowd immediately broke into complaints. It couldn't have been a freshman who said that. It had to be sophomores or juniors pulling a prank. Only the instructor would take it seriously. But it was the freshmen who had to suffer. Seeing the grumbling freshman, the instructor was displeased. Look at you all, so frail and weak. You can't even withstand a single punch from me. Tougher training is for building your strength. Lin Chun, standing at the back, suddenly tensed up because he had received another system task. Beep. Congratulations, host. A story mission has been triggered. Challenge the instructor. Reward, top-tier combat skills. Valid for life. Lin Chin looked at the instructor's robust physique, then gritted his teeth and raised his hand. Instructor, I disagree with what you said. Suddenly, everyone's gaze fell on Lin Chun. Some were surprised, some confused, some were gloating. The instructor frowned. Step out of line. Upon hearing this, Lin Chun stepped out of the formation. He stared at the instructor calmly and without fear. No matter what, he absolutely couldn't lose in presence. Do you have any objections? The instructor asked. Lin Chun spoke slowly and deliberately. Just now, the instructor said we are weak and fragile, that we couldn't even withstand one of your punches. I disagree with that statement. So, I want to have a contest with you. The instructor was taken aback. The other students all gasped. What did they just hear? Lin Chun wants to compete with the instructor? Who gave him the courage? LJR? But Lin Chun didn't panic at all, because at the moment he finished saying this, the system appeared. Congratulations, host, on completing the mission. You have obtained top-tier combat skills. Host, would you like to use it now? Lin Chen's mind stirred slightly. Use. Boom. A flood of combat knowledge surged into Lin Chen's mind. It was as if he were someone with years of fighting experience. At the same time, he felt his body brimming with strength, as if about to burst at any moment. Looking at Lin Chen's thin arms and legs, The instructor smirked. Are you sure you want to spar with me? I'm afraid I'll knock you out cold with one punch. Lin Chen stood still, cracking his joints. Instructor, you better knock me out first. The instructor let out an exasperated laugh and charged, fist raised. Lin Chen sidestepped, and in one smooth motion executed a shoulder throw, slamming the instructor onto the ground. The whole field was stunned. What had they just witnessed? Lin Chen. He threw the instructor to the ground. This is way too shocking. The instructor on the ground looked utterly dazed, but he quickly snapped out of it. Good kid, you've got some skills. With that, he charged at Lin Chen again. But this time, he didn't dare underestimate him. Just as he rushed over, Lin Chen swept his leg. The instructor fell to the ground again. The surrounding students burst into loud cheers. OMG, Lin Chen is so handsome. Love it, love it. He's such a manly guy. He gives off such a sense of security. Holy crap. Lin Chen is freaking awesome. The instructor stood up. I bow to your skill. You're something else, kid. I can't beat you. I concede. With those 3 words, you flatter me. Lin Chen turned to head back into the formation. But unexpectedly, the instructor called out to him. Wait a moment. Lin Chen turned around, a bit confused. What's up? The instructor continued. It's like this, I can see you've got good skills. How about being my assistant instructor? Huh? Assistant instructor? Lin Chen looked completely puzzled. Being an assistant instructor just means helping me train them. This way, you won't have to train, and you can rest in a shady spot. Best of all, you'll get extra credit. The instructor said slowly. Lin Chen nodded. That sounds good. The other students were filled with envy and jealousy. Why? After all, we all had 9 years of compulsory education. Lin Chen gets to train others while they're the ones being trained. They wish they could stay in the shade too. The instructor swept his gaze over the crowd. Jealous? If you can beat me, you could do the same. Everyone immediately shut up. Beat the instructor? What a joke. After that, Lin Chen had it much easier. He just had to shout commands and train the others. Life was sweet. And then Lin Chen spotted a familiar figure not far away. Waving at him, Lin Chen informed the instructor, then left the formation. He walked over. Senior, what's wrong? Lin Chen asked. Today, Song Qingwan was dressed simply in a white t-shirt and jeans. Her hair was braided and draped over one shoulder. Even her bangs were carefully curled. She must have rushed over. The bangs on her forehead were slightly damp. Her cheeks were also flushed red. Song Qingwan took out a small bottle from her crossbody bag. She handed it to Lin Chen. Here, did you forget? It's sunscreen. Lin Chen was slightly taken aback. He had indeed forgotten about that, because he had been too comfortable just now. He had only been shouting slogans. He hadn't really been out in the sun much, although he probably didn't need the sunscreen anymore. But since Song Qingwan had brought it to him, how could he refuse? Lin Chen took the sunscreen. He said with some gratitude, Thank you, senior. Then, Song Qingwan started rummaging through her bag again. Wait, I have one more thing to give you. As she said that, she stuffed another small bottle into Lin Chen's hands. This is a post-sun repair essence. It can also whiten your skin. Apply it on the sunburn areas when you get back. You should be able to get your fair skin back. Senior, you're so thoughtful. Looking at the bottles and jars in his hands, Lin Chen praised her sincerely. Song Qingwan smiled sweetly. Her beautiful eyes curved into crescent moons. Anyway, I still have a lot. Then Song Qingwan asked, Lin Chen, why weren't you training with them just now? Lin Chen turned back to look at the team and said, I'm a teaching assistant now. I'm specifically training them. Song Qingwan was dumbfounded. What's going on? Did I hear that right? You're training them? Lin Chen nodded. Now Song Qingwan was completely confused. Why can you train them? Aren't you a freshman too? Shouldn't you be training with them? Her cute, dazed look. Lin Chen couldn't help but laugh. He even got in a playful mood. No idea, maybe the instructor thinks I'm handsome. Song Qingwan was momentarily stunned. You're such a smooth talker. As she said that, she stuffed the iced lemon and grapefruit tea from her hand into his. I'm done talking to you now. I'm leaving. Carrot. Oomph. With that, she turned and walked away, not forgetting to look back and say, after the military training ends, don't forget to treat me to dinner. Lin Chen smiled and waved at her. By the time Lin Chen went back, he found everyone resting, sitting in a circle. In the center of the area, a few girls from the class were dancing a hot routine. Many guys were watching with great interest, occasionally discussing which girl had a better figure. Which girl was prettier? Lin Chun casually found an empty spot and sat down, drinking his honey grapefruit tea. Bro, nice one. I didn't expect you'd win over Song, the school beauty. A guy named Zhang Sheng looked at Lin Chun and teased, slurping a mouthful of iced lemon pomelo tea. Lin Chun grinned. I don't know what you're talking about. Zhang Cheng wore an I get it expression. TCH, still pretending. That's not cool, man. We just saw it. The milk tea in your hand was from Song, the school beauty, right? Lin Chun was about to speak when the instructor started talking. He rambled on, basically saying they'd play a game. And it was the drop the handkerchief game. Lin Chun found it pretty boring. After a few rounds, Lin Chun was so drowsy he started yawning. This time, the one chosen was Su Mo. According to the rules, she had to, before the song ended, secretly drop the handkerchief behind someone. Her gaze instantly landed on Lin Chun. She made up her mind on the spot. Lin Chun shook his head helplessly. He just thought she was so naive. Her eyes blatantly told him what she was thinking. Sure enough, she threw the object in her hand. Behind Lin Chun reacted quickly, stood up, grabbed the object, and chased after her. Sumo panicked instantly, twisted her foot, and fell to the ground. Everyone was startled. Lin Chun instinctively rushed forward and caught her. Are you okay? Lin Chun asked. Sumo shook her head, tears welling in her eyes, her lips pale from pain. I twisted my ankle, Sumo said softly. Lin Chun quickly crouched down to check her injury. He saw that her ankle was swollen badly. He immediately notified the instructor and took her to the infirmary. On the way, Sumo looked up at Lin Chun's firm jawline, her heart pounding wildly. She couldn't calm down at all. After coming out of the infirmary, Lin Chun walked her straight to the entrance of her dormitory. Can you go up by yourself? Lin Chun asked. Sumo nodded. I can manage. She paused, then continued, Thank you, Lin Chun. Lin Chun smiled. It's really my fault. If I hadn't chased you, you wouldn't have fallen. Hearing Lin Chun say this, Sumo became a bit anxious. She quickly said, It's not your fault. Lin Chun was taken aback. Why was she reacting so strongly? Coming back to her senses, Sumo also felt she had overreacted. She hurriedly explained, It's not your fault. It was my own carelessness. I'm going back now. With these words, she limped and fled into the dormitory building. After much difficulty, she reached the second floor. She leaned on the window and looked downstairs, but found that Lin Chun's figure had disappeared. A faint sense of loss suddenly welled up in her heart. The 10+ days of military training passed quickly. All the boys in the class, except for Lin Chun, had gotten several shades darker from the sun. Lin Chun, who was working out on a treadmill in a private estate's gym, suddenly stopped. Beep. Congratulations, host. A story mission has been triggered. Treat Song Qingwan to a meal. Reward with 30% of Jiaqing Company shares. Lin Chun sat down on a bench. Almost forgot I still owe Song Qingwan a meal. After all, because of her sunscreen, I was spared from turning into a lump of coal. He took out his phone and sent a WeChat message to Song Qingwan. Lin Chun, Senior, when are you free? I still owe you a meal. Song Qingwan replied almost instantly. How about tomorrow noon? Lin Chun, sure. He happened to have no classes all day tomorrow. The next day, outside the girls' dormitory building, a Rolls-Royce Phantom was parked. Everyone passing by couldn't help but marvel. This car is so cool. It looks really expensive. This is a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Almost 10 million, right? Awesome. Whose rich young master is this? Waiting for his girlfriend? Lin Chun, sitting in the driver's seat, sent a voice message to Song Qingwan, asking when she would come down. The message had just been sent when he saw Song Qingwan coming downstairs. Today, Song Qingwan seemed to have dressed up specially. She wore a white off-shoulder dress. Her hair was tied up in a bun, with 2 strands of bangs hanging down on her cheeks, making her face look even smaller. As soon as she came downstairs, Song Qingwan spotted the eye-catching Rolls-Royce Phantom and walked straight over. Everyone around was stunned. What's going on? So the car was waiting for the campus beauty Song? Didn't Song turn down dating offers? Did the Rolls-Royce Phantom rich kid win her over? Indeed, the whole no dating thing was a lie. Lin Chun got out of the car as well, opened the door on the other side for her. Song Qingwan wanted to say something, but stopped. In the end, she obediently sat in the passenger seat. This was her favorite car. She really wanted to take it for a spin. Watching Song Qingwan glance at the driver's seat from time to time, Lin Chen asked Senior. Would you like to try driving? Song Qingwan's eyes lit up. Can I? Lin Chen nodded. He got out of the car and switched seats with her. Sitting in the driver's seat of the Rolls-Royce Phantom, Song Qingwan was ecstatic. She stepped on the accelerator. The roar of the V12 engine exploded. Song Qingwan was so excited her face turned red. Lin Chen lazily leaned back in his seat. He teased, Didn't think you'd be such an experienced driver, Senior. Of course, Song Qingwan said proudly, glancing at him. He turned his head and focused on driving, experiencing the thrill of the Rolls-Royce Phantom. The flashy Rolls-Royce parked at the entrance of Eugene Western Restaurant. Everyone's gaze was drawn to it. No one didn't want to see who was driving such a luxury car. When Song Qingwan, who was stunningly beautiful, got out from the driver's seat, everyone was amazed. Many men present were about to approach her. But then they saw Lin Chen getting out from the passenger seat. They froze in place instantly. The expressions on their faces became complicated. So she already has a pretty boy with her. They stared at Lin Chen, wishing they could take his place. After the meal, the system's mechanical voice immediately rang out. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. Reward: 30% of the shares of Jiaqing Company. Lin Chen was excited. Jiaqing Company? He had heard of it. One of the leading enterprises in Donghai City. In other words, he is now a major shareholder of Jiaqing Company. A winner in life, right? Song Qingwan looked at Lin Chen with some confusion. What's wrong with you? Why are you suddenly so happy? Lin Chen looked at her gratefully. Senior, you're also my good luck charm. Song Qingwan naturally didn't notice. The word also. Chairman's office of Jiaqing Company. Jiang Li, dressed in professional attire, sat in the office chair, rubbing her slightly aching temples with one hand. Recently, Jiaqing Company's capital chain has encountered problems. She hasn't had a good night's sleep for several days. She looked somewhat haggard. She had found a company that could invest, but their boss was too greedy. If she agreed to their conditions, even if Jiaqing could survive this crisis, it would inevitably be severely weakened. Moreover, what they wanted was not just Jiaqing's shares. And her this was what Jiang Li could not stand the most. Chairwoman, chairwoman. From the doorway came the urgent voice of Secretary Zhang Yuanyuan. Jiang Li frowned slightly. What's all the panic about? It's about our company's cash flow problem. It's been solved, what? Jiang Li was so startled that she shot straight up from her seat. Say that again. Zhang Yuanyuan was clearly excited too. Just now, a man named Lin Chen injected 500 million in cash flow at once. Our company's cash flow crisis can be resolved now. Jiang Li's tightly furrowed brow finally relaxed. Her whole body loosened from its tense state. Coming back to her senses, she looked at Zhang Yuanyuan. What did you say that gentleman's name was? Zhang Yuanyuan quickly replied. Lin Chen. Lin Chen. Jiang Li was stunned. Could it be that neighbor of hers? No sooner had that thought crossed her mind. She dismissed the thought and smiled helplessly. How could it be him? He was so young. Even if he had money, buying Yun Shuijian would cost several hundred million. Where would he have another 500 million in funds? It must be a coincidence with the same name. Zhang Yuanyuan asked, Chairman, should I contact this Mr. Lin to arrange the handover procedures? Jiang Li nodded. Her red lips slightly parted. Go ahead. Then, Jiang Li took a deep breath, quickly tidying up her appearance, waiting for Lin Chen's arrival. She couldn't help but start doubting again. The person who solved their company's funding issue. Was it Lin Chen? Just then, her phone rang. Seeing the name displayed on the screen, a flicker of disgust passed through Jiang Li's eyes, but she still pressed the answer button. President Jiang, have you made your decision? 100 million funds for 30% of the shares. If you've considered it, come to the hotel tonight. Before he could finish, Jiang Li directly interrupted him. President Jiang, no need. With that, she hung up the phone directly. 100 million funds for 30% of the shares? What a joke. That Mr. Lin directly invested 500 million. On the other end of the phone, President Jiang stared at his phone in disbelief. Completely dumbfounded, Jiang Li actually dared to hang up on him. He would make Jiang Li come crying to him later. Meanwhile, Lin Chen had already arrived downstairs at the company. After registering with the security guard, he walked into the company. He hadn't taken more than a few steps when he heard a shout. Hey, what are you doing? Here for an interview? Lin Chen turned around in confusion. He saw a middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes looking at him with an air of superiority. Seeing Lin Chun silent, he continued, "Hurry up and leave. We're not hiring today." Then, he looked at the security guards not far away. "What are you even doing? Don't you know an honored guest is coming today? Why did you let random people like this in?" Lin Chun was now completely furious. Just then, a female voice came. "Manager Zhou, what's all this noise about?" Seeing the newcomer, Manager Zhou immediately said fawningly, "Director's son, these security guards don't know their job. They just let anyone in." Lin Chun, however, looked at the woman in professional attire. "Sun Fei Fei, director's son." Upon hearing this, Sun Fei Fei was startled. "Are you Lin Chun, Mr. Lin?" Lin Chun nodded. Manager Zhou's face instantly turned pale. He seemed to remember that the honored guest was named Lin Chun. Sun Fei Fei was also shocked. She had never expected that this Mr. Lin would be so young and handsome. And just now, Manager Zhou almost had this Mr. Lin thrown out. Sun Fei Fei shuddered with lingering fear. After all, the handover hadn't been completed yet. If Lin Chun suddenly changed his mind, their company would be finished. With that thought, she shot Manager Zhou an icy glare. "Do you have any idea what a stupid thing you just did?" I. Manager Zhou was drenched in cold sweat, unable to form a complete sentence. Sun Fei Fei's tone was bitingly cold. "This Mr. Lin here has injected 500 million into Jiaqing at once. He's Jiaqing's savior. Who do you think you are? How dare you disrespect him? Go to finance now and settle your wages. Don't bother coming in tomorrow. I'm sure the chairman will support my decision." With that, Sun Fei Fei turned to Lin Chun. "Mr. Lin, we've made such a huge oversight here. I'm truly sorry." "It's okay." Then Sun Fei Fei took Lin Chun to the chairman's office on the top floor. Manager Zhou stood there, his face ashen, full of regret, but no matter how much he regretted it, it was too late. In the chairman's office, as soon as Lin Chun entered, he saw a familiar figure sitting in the office chair. Jiang Li. Lin Chun was astonished. Jiang Li was the chairman of Jiaqing Company. Hearing the noise, Jiang Li also looked up. The next second, she was stunned. "Lin Chun, it's really you?" Sun Fei Fei was completely confused. She looked at Lin Chun, then at Jiang Li. "Chairman? Mr. Lin? Do you know each other?" Lin Chun laughed. "Know each other? We're neighbors." Jiang Li also smiled. "Earlier, when I heard that someone named Lin Chun had injected 5 billion into our company, I immediately thought of you, but I couldn't believe it. It turns out it really was you." Lin Chun sat down on the soft sofa and said with a smile, "What a coincidence." Jiang Li also sat down across from him. Zhang Yuan quickly went to brew 2 cups of tea and placed them in front of the two. "By the way, did you know my company was in trouble? Is that why you came to help me?" Jiang Li asked with a smile. Lin Chun glanced at her and said, "What if I said no? Would you believe me?" Jiang Li laughed, her beautiful peach blossom eyes slightly squinting. "No." Lin Chun shrugged. She didn't believe him, and there was nothing he could do about it. He truly had no idea what was going on. This 30% stake was a reward from the system. However, if she insisted on thinking that way, then let it be. Then she spoke again. "Mr. Lin, you are young and promising. I really like you." Jiang Li smiled, a hint of slyness in her eyes. She didn't know why, but she always enjoyed teasing Lin Chun. Lin Chun coughed dryly twice. "You flatter me, President Jiang." Jiang Li smiled. She didn't continue the previous topic. Instead, she picked up a teacup on the table, took a sip, and said slowly, "I imported a large batch of skincare product from abroad, but something went wrong. The money was sunk in, but the goods are stuck in the warehouse. Our company's cash flow is tied up now. In other words, your 5 billion basically saved the entire Jiaqing. You're also Jiaqing's benefactor." Jiang Li set the teacup down on the table, looking at Lin Chun with a serious expression. Lin Chun felt a little creeped out by her gaze. But then, Jiang Li let out a charming laugh. "Tell me, I owe you such a huge favor. How should I thank you? How about I give myself to you?" Lin Chun, who was drinking tea, was directly choked. "That direct. President Jiang, please don't joke around. I'm still just a student." Lin Chun sighed helplessly. Jiang Li really is a fox. Can't outsmart her, no way. Upon hearing this, Jiang Li raised a delicate eyebrow. "A student? From Donghai University." Lin Chun nodded. "A freshman? How coincidental. Donghai University is also my alma mater." but I graduated a few years ago, so you should call me senior. Jiang Li said with a teasing smile. Lin Chun. Another senior? Before Lin Chun could respond, Jiang Li continued, I'm curious. You just paid the full amount for Shuiyan waterfront, and now you're injecting 500 million into my company. Where did you get all this money? As she spoke, she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Looking at Lin Chun, what a fox. At that moment, that was the only thought in Lin Chen's mind. Every move she made exuded charm. The moment she said it, even Jiang Li realized her words were inappropriate. So she added apologetically, I'm sorry. I was rude just now. We are partners. Mr. Lin's assets are not something I should ask about. Lin Chun was slightly taken aback, and it took him a few seconds to react. It turned out Jiang Li thought he was angry. It's fine, Lin Chun said. Because of the interruption just now, Jiang Li was a bit dazed. The teacup in her hand trembled, and tea immediately spilled onto her collar. Jiang Li directly took off her suit jacket and frantically wiped the water stains on her white shirt. Lin Chun, meanwhile, grabbed some tissues nearby and handed them to her. Wipe it off. The blouse and pencil skirt perfectly outlined Jiang Li's graceful figure. What a temptress. Lin Chun couldn't help thinking. Thank you, Jiang Li said as she wiped her clothes with the tissues, while inwardly feeling annoyed with herself. How could she make such a huge fool of herself in front of Lin Chun? This is utterly embarrassing. Thinking this, Jiang Li's ears turned slightly red. Even her cheeks were tinged with two blushes. Looking at her ruined clothes, Jiang Li gave up trying to salvage them. Letting out a sigh, I'm going to change clothes. Seeing this, Lin Chun made a stand up. Then I'll give you some privacy. But Jiang Li shook her head. No need, just wait for me here. There's a separate room in my office. With that, she grabbed Sumo's hand, exclaiming excitedly, this Lin Chun guy. Is he just like the male lead in a novel? With unmatched ability and extraordinary intelligence. Sumo gently pushed her hand away, giving her a subtle glare. You should read fewer sweet romance novels. But Su Tao was still lost in her own fantasy, completely beside herself with excitement. After dinner, Su Tao came up with an idea. Sumo was completely dumbfounded. Switch identities. Su Tao kept shaking her arm. She said coquettishly, Sister, haven't we often switched identities before? I'll just sit in your classroom for a bit and see what this Lin Chun is like. Okay. Besides, you finally have someone you like. I definitely have to check him out for you. See if his character is good or not. Otherwise, with your timid personality, you wouldn't even know if someone took advantage of you. Sumo couldn't resist her coaxing and had no choice but to agree. In the afternoon, when it was time for class, Su Tao changed into Sumo's clothes, sat in the classroom and looked around, searching for Lin Chun's figure. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. Lin Chun had just arrived at the classroom and saw Sumo staring at him intently. That look was one of excitement and curiosity, she thought. Lin Chun walked directly to the seat beside her and sat down. You're quite early. Su Tao quickly nodded. She laughed awkwardly. Fairly early. Lin Chun frowned suspiciously. He felt that today's Sumo was acting strange, as if she had become a different person. According to her personality, shouldn't she just nod and then ignore him? Meeting Lin Chun's strange gaze, Su Tao also realized she had let something slip. She quickly imitated Sumo's usual demeanor, deliberately putting on a straight face. Lin Chun nodded. That was more like her. Then, he remembered the incident at the school gate at noon. He asked suspiciously, At noon today, I think I saw you at the school gate. You were wearing a Lolita dress. Su Tao's body stiffened. Her eyes darted around nervously. She said guiltily, You must have seen wrong. I don't wear that kind of clothes. Too flashy. I don't like it. That's what Sumo had said. Lin Chun nodded. Yeah, I think I saw wrong too. Unless you can teleport. There's no way I saw you there. Sumo gave a faint smile. But inside, she was panicking like crazy. Lin Chun glanced at Sumo a couple more times. He kept feeling that Sumo today was acting strange. Why do you keep looking at me? Is there something on my face? Su Tao pouted and asked. Lin Chun shook his head. Then, as if something occurred to her, she asked again, You like egg tarts? Lin Chun was taken aback. He replied casually, They're all right. Why did you suddenly ask that? Su Tao narrowed her eyes and smiled. Nothing, just remembered something from this morning. Lin Chun suddenly laughed. What? You want to make egg tarts for me too? Su Tao was slightly taken aback. No way, she said with a look of pride. Seeing Su Mo looking so adorably dazed, Lin Shan felt a little unaccustomed to it. However, her like this was also very cute. Then, the teacher arrived. So the two of them stopped chatting. But Su Tao's mind wasn't on the lesson. It was on Lin Shan. Spring drowsiness, autumn fatigue, Su Tao couldn't help it. She lay down on the desk. The bell rang for the end of class. Lin Shan looked at the girl, sleeping soundly, and helplessly tapped on the desk. Su Tao yolti de wak. Immediately sat up straight, like an obedient elementary school student. Lin Shan couldn't help but laugh. Class is over. Su Tao only then realized, rubbing her sleepy eyes. She said groggily, "Oh, so class is over." As she spoke, she stretched lazily and yawned in passing. Hearing this voice, Jiang Li's body stiffened slightly. She turned around and coldly stared at the newcomer. Manager Zhang. Lin Shan also looked over. The newcomer was a pot-bellied, balding middle-aged man. His drooping, triangular eyes seemed glued to Jiang Li's body. When he saw Lin Shan, he first looked him up and down, then gave a contemptuous smile. "You came to the appointment and brought a pretty boy with you?" "Appointment?" Lin Shan was confused. Jiang Li also furrowed her brow. Previously, she had gone to ask Manager Zhang to invest in Jiaqing. But not only had he ruthlessly lowballed the price, he had also set his sights on her. If she had known he would choose this place, she, Jiang Li, would never have brought Lin Shan here. I don't know what Manager Zhang is talking about. Today, I'm here to treat everyone to a meal. Treat? Manager Zhang's gaze landed on Lin Shan. Don't tell me. It's this kid? Jiang Li's face darkened. He's my guest. Please show some respect, President Zhang. President Zhang paused, then let out a mocking laugh. You want me to show respect to this wet behind-the-ears brat? Lin Shan was completely confused. What did this have to do with him? How did he get dragged into this? Could someone tell him what was going on? After laughing enough, President Zhang continued. It seems President Jiang doesn't need my funding anymore. He sneered, his words laced with threat. Jiang Li glanced at Lin Shan, then said, "Thank you for your kind offer, President Zhang. We at Jiaqing no longer need it." Jiang Li deliberately stressed the word "kind offer" heavily. President Zhang looked stunned. He never expected Jiang Li to say something like that. In his view, if Jiaqing had no funding, it would inevitably face great difficulties. Could it be that Jiang Li has already found a source of funding? Jiang Li gave a cold laugh. She continued, "This Mr. Lin has already injected 500 million into our Jiaqing in a single lump sum. So, we no longer need your help, General Manager Zhang." With that, she looked at Lin Shan. "Let us go in." Lin Shan nodded. He cast a glance at the stunned General Manager Zhang, then followed Jiang Li inside. General Manager Zhang stood frozen in place, unable to snap out of it for a long time. "You've got to be kidding me, a one-time injection of 500 million? That kid can't be much more than 20 years old. At his age, where could he possibly get so much money? Could he be a young master from some prestigious family? The one putting up the 500 million ISNT him, but the elders in his household." With that thought, General Manager Zhang quickly made a phone call. "Help me check if Jiaqing has really found a funding source. Also, dig into the background of whoever gave them the money." Meanwhile, Jiang Li and Lin Shan were already seated in the private room. Thinking about what had just happened, Jiang Li gave a bitter smile. "I made a fool of myself just now." "Who was that person?" Lin Shan asked. "That's Zhang Daguang, the general manager of Ocean Group. Our company was isolated and helpless due to a capital chain crisis before. I went to beg him, and he was willing to invest. But the terms he offered were very harsh, and also very excessive." The following words, Jiang Li didn't want to say anymore. Hearing this, Lin Shan roughly knew what had happened. It was nothing but that old lecher Zhang Daguang, trying to use this to threaten Jiang Li into submitting to him. It was hard on her, but in a moment, Jiang Li had composed herself. She smiled and said, "So you see, I owe you a huge favor. In the future, if you need Sister Li's help, as long as I can do it, feel free to tell me." Hearing this, Lin Shan suddenly wore a teasing and amused expression. "Oh, as long as you can do it, anything is okay." Jiang Li was a bit surprised. Her delicate brows raised slightly. What are you planning, Lin Shan?" He chuckled twice. "I haven't figured it out yet. We'll talk about it later." Jiang Li smiled with pursed lips. She didn't say anything else. After dinner, since the two lived across from each other, they went back to Riverside Elegance together. After arriving at the complex, each went to their own villa. After showering, Lin Chun wore a loose bathrobe and sat in the living room watching a movie. His gaze suddenly fell on the 2 bottles of red wine Jiang Li had given him last time. An idea came to him. He took out a wine glass, poured himself a full glass. At the same time, he took a photo, posted it on his social feed, with the caption, "Enjoying life." Within minutes, several comments came in. Li Xinjian, Awazuma, Bru. Looks like you're doing well for yourself. Drinking wine that costs 100 grand. Zhou Qian, too much fake wine is bad for your health. Smile Shinmingqi. Boo-hoo, enjoying life without me. The first one was his high school buddy. The second was his middle school classmate. The class belle, a real elitist, heard she dropped out after middle school. But then Lin Chun jolted, sitting straight up from the sofa. Wine worth 100 grand? Lin Chun grabbed his phone and searched online. Domaine de la Romanée Conti, Musigny Grand Cru. Long name, international average price. 92,594 yuan. Casually gifting wine worth 200 grand. Really generous. Just then, Jiang Li sent a message. Jiang Li, just saw your moments. This is my favorite wine. How does it taste? Is it good? Lin Chun, it's good, Jiang Li. As long as it tastes good right after that. Shinmingqi also sent a message. Shinmingqi, Junior, you really know how to enjoy life. I've been learning to cook lately too. Take a look, Junior, what do you think? Then she sent a few photos of delicious food she made in the dorm. Lin Chun, won't they confiscate your prohibited electrical appliances? Shinmingqi, they wouldn't dare take mine. Lin Chun, the weather's dry. Be careful not to start fire. After saying that, Lin Chun put down his phone. The next day, Lin Chun made a point to wake up early. He drove to get breakfast. The morning business was pretty booming. Lin Chun barely managed to find a parking spot. He just sat down and ordered some egg dumplings and crystal buns. When a commotion broke out nearby. Holy crap, there's a Rolls-Royce Phantom outside. Awesome, I wonder which big shot's car that is. There aren't many luxury cars in Donghai City. Didn't expect to see one here. How much wealth does one need to be willing to spend so much money on this car? It's a few young people. They had just found a place to sit down and started discussing animatedly. A girl sitting at a nearby table immediately pricked up her ears. Lin Chun also glanced at them indifferently, saying nothing as he quietly ate his breakfast. The girl scanned the store a few times, her gaze finally landing on a middle-aged man. The man looked to be in his 40s, wearing a suit that didn't look cheap. Even his leather shoes were polished to a shine. His hair was combed all the way back, tied into a small ponytail. He had quite the air of a successful person. The young people seemed to have noticed him too, beginning to lower their heads and whisper among themselves. It must be that middle-aged man. That suit of his. Looks like it's really expensive. I'm sure it's him. I never thought someone driving a luxury car could be so down-to-earth. Coming to a place like this for breakfast. I'm so envious. If only I could drive a luxury car like that. That girl seemed to have made up her mind. She took out a compact mirror to touch up her makeup, revealing what she thought was her most beautiful smile. She carried her breakfast and walked over to that middle-aged man. Hello, sir. Can I share your table? The man was startled for a moment, then nodded. Delighted inside, she sat down across from him. She made a gesture of flipping her hair. She threw a few flirtatious glances. Your car is so beautiful. Can I sit in your passenger seat for a bit? Lin Chun, who was nearby, couldn't help but chuckle. He almost burst out laughing. The girl shot Lin Chun an irritated glance. When she turned to the middle-aged man, she put on another smile. The man, looking completely bewildered, nodded. Is his Nissan beautiful? After finishing breakfast, Lin Chun picked up a napkin and wiped his mouth, stood up and walked out. With one press of the accelerator, the roar of the V12 engine exploded, and the Rolls-Royce Phantom vanished without a trace. The several people in the shop were stunned. That Rolls-Royce Phantom, it was that young man's. Especially that girl, stared at the uncle with an angry expression. That Rolls-Royce Phantom isn't yours. The uncle nodded blankly. No, I drive a Nissan. Bang! The girl stood up abruptly and shouted angrily. Why didn't you say so earlier? Wasting my time. I'm not eating anymore. After saying that, she left in a huff. She had approached the wrong person. She regretted it deeply, wishing she had approached that young guy just now. Meanwhile, Lin Chun had already arrived at the classroom. Soon after sitting down, a girl next to him leaned in and whispered, "Lin Chun." "Thank you." Lin Chun was confused. What for? As far as he remembered, this girl seemed to be called Chu Qianqian. Chu Qianqian gave a sweet smile. "Because of you, I became the class monitor." Now Lin Chun was even more bewildered. Isn't Zhou Kai the class monitor? Hearing Lin Chen's words, a clear hint of surprise flashed in Chu Qianqian's eyes. Xiao Kai switched majors. Didn't you know? Everyone says. Zhou Kai switched majors because of you. After Zhou Kai left, I became the class monitor. Lin Chen thought Zhou Kai was scared away by me. Well, I had no idea. Chu Qianqian wanted to say more, but just then the foreign language teacher walked in. She immediately shut her mouth. Several times during class, she tried to talk to Lin Chen. Seeing that he was listening attentively in class, Chu Qianqian decided not to disturb him. Just as the break began, Lin Chen was about to take a short nap on the desk. A familiar voice came. "Lin Chen, come out for a moment." Hearing this, Lin Chen looked up toward the door. "Shen Mingqi, what does she want with me?" While Lin Chen was wondering, Shen Mingqi waved at him. Lin Chen had no choice but to get up and go out. Shen Mingqi handed 2 delicate bags to Lin Chen. She said softly, "I guess you probably haven't had breakfast. I brought you some egg tarts. And bubble tea too." The people around immediately started teasing them. "Wow, a love-filled breakfast. I'm so jealous. I'm totally green with envy. I'm the green-eyed monster. Such a thoughtful senior. Why can't I ever meet someone like that?" Hearing the comments around her, Shen Mingqi's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Lin Chen looked at the bag in his hand and said a little awkwardly, Senior, already had breakfast. Maybe you should take it back and eat it yourself." Shen Mingqi's expression froze for a moment, but quickly returned to normal. "It's fine, you can have it as a snack. I baked these egg tarts myself. You wouldn't refuse me, would you?" The teasing from the crowd grew louder. Helpless, Lin Chen had no choice but to accept. "Then thank you, senior." Shen Mingqi instantly brightened up, squinting her eyes with a smile. "No problem. I'll head back now." Lin Chen took the bag back to his seat. As soon as he opened it, the aroma of egg tarts wafted out. So fragrant, still warm. There were 6 in total, but he'd already eaten breakfast. You can't eat that many anyway. Lin Chen glanced at Chu Qianqian beside him. He took one and handed it over. "Would you like some?" Chu Qianqian shook her head. "You go ahead. I've been on a diet lately." Lin Chen scanned her figure. He shook his head. "Someone like you still needs to lose weight. If you lose any more, you'll be skin and bones. Come on, you need to eat enough to have the energy to diet." With that, Lin Chen directly stuffed the egg tart into her hand. Chu Qianqian had no choice but to eat. As she ate, she praised, "It's really delicious." Meanwhile, Su Mo, sitting not far away, glanced at Lin Chen. Then she looked at the egg tart in his hand. She silently picked up her phone. She found a chat labeled "Little Sister." "Su Dao, do you know how to make egg tarts?" Lin Chen was stunned. Him, pure and innocent. Goo. What kind of adjective is that? "Sister Ali, please stop teasing me. I'm not one to be easily teased." Lin Chen said helplessly, "A fox is indeed a fox." She even wanted to devour him whole. Then again, who knows who will end up devouring whom? After running a few laps and coming back, Jiang Li invited Lin Chen to her villa for breakfast. Unable to refuse her hospitality, Lin Chen had to follow. In the kitchen, Lin Chen sat at the dining table, watching Jiang Li busily moving around in the kitchen. "Sister Li, do you need any help?" Lin Chen asked. Jiang Li replied without turning around, "Better forget it, you're a guest. It's not right to make a guest work." Having said that, she turned back with a sly grin. "Actually, I'm afraid he might blow up my kitchen, haha." Lin Chen was stunned. Was he really that scary? Even if his cooking wasn't necessarily delicious, it was still edible, right? Then Jiang Li added, "Just kidding, you just sit and wait a bit. It'll be ready soon," another joke. But honestly, being with Jiang Li is never boring. She's pretty with a great figure, loves joking around, and is pretty fun. Speaking of which, this scene, it really looks like a young couple. The girlfriend busy in the kitchen, the boyfriend eagerly waiting to be fed. If Jiang Li became his girlfriend, with her assertive personality, Lin Chen suddenly pictured this scene, Jiang Li lifting his chin with her index finger, a slight smirk curling at the corner of her mouth. "Little one, you've finally fallen into my hands." Lin Chun was startled by this thought and quickly grabbed the water glass on the table for a big gulp. Too scary, he chickened out. Just then, Zhongli came over with two beautifully plated plates of steak and pasta, along with 2 glasses of milk. Lin Chun couldn't help but glance at Zhongli twice. He didn't expect Zhongli to be such a good cook. I was planning to drink with you, but I figured you probably still have classes to go to, and I have to head to the company too, so I switched it to milk instead, Zhongli said as she sat down. Then she looked at Lin Chun again. She asked, "Is the milk okay for you? If it's not to your taste, I'll get you some juice, big sister style." Lin Chun nodded. "It's fine. No need to trouble yourself." Zhongli looked at Lin Chun, her gaze sharp. "Try it and see if it tastes good." Lin Chun picked up a small forkful of pasta and put it in his mouth. His eyes instantly lit up. Soft, smooth, chewy, and richly flavored. He couldn't help but give a thumbs up. 666, delicious. Thumbs up to you. Zhongli squinted and smiled, her peach blossom eyes curving into crescent moons. "I'm glad you like it." Then, Lin Chun's phone rang. Lin Chun picked up the phone, pressed the answer button, and spoke while eating noodles. "Hello, who is this?" A low male voice came from the other end of the line. Very respectful. "Mr. Lin." "Hello, I'm the legal director of Meisher Mike. My name is Chun Lin." Upon hearing this, Zhongli looked up at Lin Chun, a bit puzzled. The legal director of Meisher Mike? Why is he calling Lin Chun? Could it be? Thinking this, Zhongli was shocked. Lin Chun responded calmly. "Oh, Director Chun." Chun Lin continued. "After you acquired 30% of our company's shares last night, we held an emergency high-level meeting. We wanted to contact you last night, but we're afraid of disturbing your rest. So we're calling you now. May I ask when you'll be free to come and handle the handover procedures?" With a clatter, the chopsticks in Zhongli's hand directly fell onto the table. Her beautiful eyes were full of surprise as she looked at Lin Chun. "You've acquired another 30% of the shares of Gourmet Delight? What kind of monster is Lin Chun?" Lin Chun calmly glanced at Zhongli, then said, "At noon. I should be free at noon." The person on the other end quickly said, "Okay, then all of us at Gourmet Delight look forward to your arrival." After hanging up the phone, Lin Chun continued eating the delicious pasta. He had to admit, Zhongli's cooking was really good. The steak was also pan-fried to perfection. Zhongli several times seemed to want to speak, but held back. Finally, she couldn't help asking, "You acquired another 30% of Gourmet Delight's shares?" Lin Chun nodded. I just acquired it along the way." Along the way? Zhongli's mouth twitched a few times. Suddenly, the pasta in front of her didn't seem so delicious anymore. "Can't you just let me live? Are you some kind of monster?" Zhongli asked. Lin Chun looked innocent. "Why do you say that? I'm just an ordinary person." "Ordinary? First, you spend a fortune to buy the penthouse in Shui and Yaju, Cloud Water Residence, in full. Then you inject 500 million in cash into her Jiaqin company all at once. And now you've acquired 30% of the shares in Meisher Mike. And you still say you're ordinary?" Then Lin Chun grinned. "The monster isn't me. It's you." Zhongli raised an eyebrow, somewhat puzzled. "Why?" Lin Chun said, "I think you should be called a fox. That suits you better." Zhongli was taken aback, but she quickly caught on. "Since you say I'm a fox, then do you want to take me in?" Lin Chun finished the last bite of pasta on his plate, burped, and said, "You're a fox of 1,000 years. My cultivation isn't deep enough. Compared to you, I'm still too inexperienced." Zhongli covered her mouth and chuckled. "In that case, I'll wait for you to finish your training. What do you think?" Lin Chun was momentarily stunned. He let out an awkward laugh or two. "Sister Ali, you're joking again."